Texas Congressman Will Hurd. Congressman Hurd, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure to be on.
What do you make of Senator Cruz's proposal here?
Well, as creative as it is, it's not going to be considered under the current 2017 funding on how to fund the government. And besides, asset forfeiture funds have a lot of that has already been spoken for. Those are funds that go into operations within DOJ to go after additional drug smugglers. And I also, I've been pretty clear on this idea of a wall. Building a wall from sea to shining sea is the most expensive and least effective way to do border security. You know, I spent 9.5 years as an undercover officer in the CIA, chasing terrorists all over the world, nuclear weapons proliferators, and I have 820 miles of the border, more border than any other member of Congress. And we need to be using additional technology and more manpower on the border. You can't have a one-size-fits-all solution to securing our border.
Yeah.
And,
well, you make a lot of good points, and I know you've been pretty adamant about this. Now, you represent the 23rd Congressional District, which spans more than 800 miles along that southern border. So your constituents, is this coming from your constituents? They don't want that wall there? I mean, tell us why you think a wall is so effective.
Well, in certain places in the border, and in many parts of my district, the border is considered remote. And Border Patrol, when their response time to a problem at the border is measured in hours to days. If your response time is measured in hours to days, then a wall isn't a physical barrier. What folks need in a place like El Paso sector, the border is broken up into sectors. El Paso sector is responsible for 300 miles of the border. Only 60 miles has permanent technology on it, where you're using cameras and sensors in order to understand threats to those borders. What we should be able to do is detect when someone comes along the border, monitor that with a camera or an unmanned aerial vehicle, and keep track of that threat until you're able to deploy your most important resource, your human resources. That's Border Patrol, the men and women in Border Patrol. That's the defense in depth strategy that we should have. And when we look at how we should be measuring whether we're securing our border, we shouldn't be measuring how many miles of fence or wall we have. We should be measuring whether we see a significant decrease in apprehensions on the border. Do we see less drugs coming into our country?
Well, you're already seeing the number of people trying to get in dropping percent.
Absolutely, and I think that's why this administration should be applauded, because we have seen that number going down.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of metrics that we should be looking at, because border security is important. It's a public safety issue in the communities that I represent. Yeah. And by the way, we can do border security and facilitate trade at the same time.
Kirsten, how do you see it?
Well, here's my question, is that 60% of our illegal immigrants that are here currently are visa overstays. So that is a problem that has not really been talked about. And I'm wondering if the money that's in this spending bill coming up that's going to be passed, no government shutdown, hopefully, if the border security funding there addresses some of this issue, because you talked about the manpower down at the border, which is so important. What about the manpower to, deal with all these visa overstays, which are actually contributing more? These are student visas. These are people that come over here. That's 60% of the problem.
So the finishing touches on our 2017 appropriations is still being made, but there is additional funding for Border Patrol and ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement. These are the folks that would be ultimately prosecuting that and going after those types of activities. And so we need more people within Department of Homeland Security, and that's one thing we're looking to do in this current funding for 2017.
This tough talk, though, Congressman, we should point out that border crossings in the first 2 months, in the last 2 months, are down 70% from a year ago, according to the Department of Homeland Security Secretary.
That's exactly right. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, so it's the first 3 months. The data I have is the first 3 months, and it's 40% from the previous time last year, which is significant. One of the things, the way you can secure your border is actually enforce your laws. When there's no consequence to negative behavior, guess what? That negative behavior is going to continue.
Yeah, so what do you think? So then what do you think of the judge in the Ninth Circuit pushing back on just following the law about sanctuary cities?
Well, again, it's pretty clear if you have a law, you should enforce it. And that's
how come these judges won't just follow the law?
Well, I think you have to ask them. I'm in the legislative branch, but this is important in my district, and the American people want to see us enforcing the law, and that has positive consequences. So you enforce the law, you improve the technology and the manpower that you have on the border. You do something else. You increase the amount of intelligence that you're collecting on the 19 criminal organizations that are operating in Mexico and Central America, and do that to work closely with our Mexican partners, because the reality is this is a problem for Mexico as well too, and there are a number of units that we can be working with to stop this problem before it actually gets to our border. You do those things, you're going to see apprehensions go down, a number of people coming in illegally going down. You're going to see the kinds of drugs that are coming in go down. You know, Coast Guard, what's ridiculous, Coast Guard, they're only able to action about 30% of the intelligence they have on drugs coming into our country, because they don't have the resources, they don't have the cutters, they don't have the manpower. Money going towards them when we have existing intelligence is be more effective and a better use of American taxpayer dollars.
Congressman, great to hear your thoughts on this. We appreciate you weighing in this morning.